Sutra number 10 of the Kaivalya Pada of Maharshi Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is Tasamanaditvam chasisho nityatvat. Tasamanaditvam chasisho nityatvat. Tasam anaditvam cha ashisho nityatvat. That is the sutra. Tasam means of those, of them. Anaditvam, adi, anadi, anaditvam. Anaditvam is beginningless. Cha is end. Ashisho. As is to exist. Ish is to desire. Ashisho is to desire to live. Nityatvam. Nityatvam means permanency, eternity. So, tasa manaditvam chasisho nityatvat. The meaning is, there is no beginning of them because the desire to live is eternal. There is no beginning of them. Of them means of those memories, what was told in the earlier. There is no end to them. Tasam. There is no end to the samskaras, to the desires, which we have seen in the previous sutras. There is no end to them. Why there is no end to them? Because the desire for permanency, the desire for eternity, the desire for nityatvam, and the desire to live, ashisho. This is something beautifully Maharshi Patanjali is presenting. The samskaras have no end. They are no beginningless. That means they exist continuously. And the cause for their continuous existence, continuous presence of the samskaras is the will to live is permanent. The desire to live, the desire to exist is nityam, it is permanent. So the beginningless of the smritis and the samskaras, continuity of the memory and the continuity of the tendencies, there is no end to them. Memory is continuous, inexhaustible memory. It cannot be exhausted. Similarly, sanskaras, the tendencies, also cannot be exhausted because the will to live, the desire to live, the will to continue, the desire to continue, and that desire to continue and that will to continue, that means the will to live, the desire to live, ashisho, is permanent, nityatvam. As long as there is a will to live, as long as there is a desire to live, there is no end to samskaras and the smriti. This is a beautiful suggestion, a beautiful hint from Maharshi Patanjali. There cannot be an end to samskaras. Samskara rahitya, smriti rahityam is not possible as long as one desires to live. One continues to have a desire to live. Nityatvam of the ashishatvam. As long as it is there, yes, it's not possible. That is the main question which will be always asked. Is there an end for samskaras? Is there an end for smriti? There is no end to it, because the desire to preserve the life, ashisho nityatvam, that is there. So as long as it is there, there cannot be an exhaustion, emptying of the samskaras. So Patanjali, that's why Maharshi has used two beautiful words here. One is the ashisha, and of course the anaditvam and nityatvam. But this desire to live is the another word which was used in the second chapter, Sutra numbers 3 and 9, if you remember, where Maharshi uses the word, and when he describes about the kleshas, abhinivesha he calls it. Avidya and the other four. The last one is being the abhinivesha. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. There the abhinivesha is an outcome of the avidya and the asmita, and it was a clinging to the life. But here ashisha is a more positive dimension. Here it is a desire to continue the life, to preserve the life. And there it was out of the troubles, and it was put under the kleshaitis. But here ashisha is a benign force, an essential for the maintenance of life activities. Of course, even to continue the yoga sadhana. But there, abhinivesha is a kleshaitis, which is a troubling factor. And it was associated with egoism, asmita. So clinging to the life out of fear, and a desire to continue. A slight, subtle difference has been expressed between these beautiful two words, ashisha and the abhinivesha. And then, of course, all our activities, all our decisions, all our transactions is goaded, driven by the force to live, to continue, and to preserve. That is why this entire rolling of the life, continuity of the life is moving on, because the hope is eternal. Ashisha is nityatvam. The hope is eternal. And because the hope is eternal, the samskaras continue to be there. Smriti continues to be there. Now Patanjali is slightly hinting the fueling factor for the samskaras, fueling factor for the memory, or the base and the foundation of the memory and the samskaras is the factor of will to live, will to continue. And that is how Maharshi Patanjali uses this beautiful word, ashisho nityatvat. And this driving force for the preservation of the life is the foundation and watering, fueling the samskaras and the smritis. Even a disease is a protective mechanism. Is it not? It serves as a forewarning of a possible and more dangerous situation and of death. And its purpose is that the organism, the entire body, can be saved from this by adopting proper measures. So even the fear of death, even that is out of the nityatvam of the asha. And that is the driving force. Asha is not a desire, it is a fueling force. And that is the important dimension. And entire entity has been the force behind the complete entity is the Ashisha. This force is eternal and it is beginningless. It is Anaditvam and it is Nityatvam. And the sanskaras need also be supposed to be beginningless, since they are produced, preserved in the, as we have seen in the Karmashaya, by this force of Ashisha. And through which the cycle of life after life is perpetuated. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha sansare, bahudussare, kripaya pare, pahimurare. Beautifully, Bhagavan Adi Shankara in his Bhajagovindam, he tells it. Asha is the driving force. And this is the propeller. The memory of a child just born is due to the experience of the former lives. Because otherwise it would not be a memory. It acts just like our own memory. Even the budding and opening of a lotus is not inherent, because that is inherent in anything. Does not stand in need of any other cause for its manifestation. Flowering of a lotus, flowering of any flower, there was a hidden desire in it to live. And even fire stands in need of other cause for the manifestation of its heat. In the same way, the cause of the opening of a lotus flower is the contact from outside of the rays of the rising sun. And the cause of the shutting up of the petals is a residual potency, that is the samskaras, which maintains the inactivity. Similarly, the happiness of a baby, which is inferred from smiles, etc., is also considered to be as a proof of a previous life. Maharishi Patanjali, from the present, he draws deep into the past. From what is appearing, he takes us to the what was not expressing. From the known, he takes us to the unknown. That is the tasam anaditvam chasisho nityatvat. Vivekananda beautifully, Swamiji wonderfully presents it. This thirst for happiness, being eternal, desires are without beginning. All experience is preceded by desire for becoming happy. There was no beginning of experience, as each fresh experience is built upon the tendency generated by past experience. Therefore, desire is without beginning. Desire after desire comes, because the will to continue, ashisha, is nityatvam. The real question which arises is, when and how does this process of accumulating samskaras begin? How it begins, where it starts, The answer given by Maharishi Patanjali in this particular sutra is brilliant, master, very deep, very subtle. And it is a base. And the answer is, it is a will to live or the desire to be. This desire to be and the will to live. That is the answer to the question for accumulating samskaras and the propelling of the samskaras. That's why in the Sanatana Dharma, in all the sadhanas, that will to live, let be fearless against the death. All such expressions come from there. In fact, the moment the samskaras begin to form, that means there was the will behind it. And that is, of course, avidya and the kleshas begin to work in the abhinivesha. Attractions, repulsions of various degrees and kinds which are present even in the earliest stages of evolution. Whether it is a stone, whether it is a mineral, whether it is a vegetable, whether it is an animal. The attractions and repulsions are based on this past memory and a will to live now. An individual who attains the human stage after passing through all the previous stages brings with him all the samskaras of the stages through which we have passed. Though most of these samskaras lie dormant in a latent condition. How wonderfully Maharishi Patanjali is analyzing, expressing, exposing at a most deep and subtlest content of ourself. What are we actually? And it will be seen that it is not possible to destroy the vasanas and thus put an end to the life process by tackling them on their own plane. It is not that easy. Even the nishkama karma, when practiced perfectly, can only stop generating new personal karmas, new impressions and sanskaras. It cannot destroy the root of the vasanas, which was inherent in the manifested life. As Viveka and Vairagya develop, the active vasanas become more and more clear, but their sanskaras remain and like seeds which can be burst forth at any time. That's what we have seen. When a suitable environment and a favorable conditions will come, they will come out. So the root, the base, the foundation is that will to live, the will to continue is permanent. And the entire sadhana has to be directed towards that particular direction, to that particular bindu, the point. Be fearless. Face the death fearlessly. Nachiketa faced it. Let us not be afraid of our fear of death. And this is very, very important. And this is a tremendous power, tremendous sadhana to develop, not to be afraid of death. As we have seen earlier, a small disease comes, a little bit of discomfort in the body, we rush to a doctor. That is also, of course, out of one is the fear of death, abhinivesha, another is the positive side of ashisha. But both fuel the samskaras and the memory. With this wonderful exposition of Maharishi Patanjali's beautiful description, let us continue the further sutras of the Kaivalya Pada. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.